My name is Alberto Lavandeira. I am the CEO of Atalaya Mining. I am a mining engineer that's heading a team. My background is 42 years, well over 42 years of mining experience. And I'm the CEO of Atalaya Mining, which has a producing asset in Spain, as well as a whole pipeline of projects, all of them located in Spain. We are mining copper, and we are traded in AIM, as well as in Toronto, but mainly in AIM.
Alberto, thank you. Great introduction. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you for many years, but it's good to meet you again after a long time. And I see Atalaya has had a tremendous 2-year run on the stock market. You know, the share price has done fantastically well, and you completed your expansion at Atalaya to 15 million tons throughput, and you're producing about 55,000 tons of copper per annum.
Yes.
So, tremendous achievement. Congratulations. So the question is, how did what was the most important how did you get here in terms of the decision to go from 9 million tons to 15, 16 million tons, and what happens now?
Yes, that's a very good question. Look, first of all, Atalaya has always delivered in the promises. I have been heading this team for over 7 years, but I had fantastic people around me. And we restarted this old project, had been sitting for 15 years in a very short period of time. In 1 year, we're back up and running with limited resources. In the second year, we were doubling our production. At the same time, simultaneously, we were drilling, and we went from what was expected to be like a 13 years mine life to well over 25 years mine life at that rate. So we decided, we were looking to lots of things around the world, but after looking and checking, we decided, what the hell are we doing outside if we have something better here? So we decided to do a fast-track feasibility study. We was very positive. Again, in a year and a half, expanded to 50% more tons through the mill compared to what we were doing back in 17, 18.
Yep.
And that has led us to where we are right now. In a very short period of time, 6 years ago, the company was producing nothing, to the last couple of years where we have been close to 56,000 tons but of copper per year. But the good thing of this is that we said we were going to do it. And we said we were going to do it on time, budget, and that we were going to expand, and we were going to, once we had expanded, we were going to consolidate and continue growing. So that's, I would say, is the history. Where do we go now? Okay, once we have stabilized what we have in Rio Tinto, in the project, Cerro Colorado project, it's an open pit. We have been preparing ourselves with a lot of ground, exploration ground, mineral rights, to go beyond that. And we can do that within growth, organic growth. And we have demonstrated in the past that we fulfill our promises. So we are going to be expanding production at Rio Tinto by bringing in additional tons that have higher grade of copper and include zinc. We are going to be continuing permitting a new project in the north part of Spain. It's called Douro. And we have a significant budget now for exploration in a very large land and prospective land package. So that's the way we are going to be growing. And since we have done it in the past, I think people are starting to believe us.
Can I just have a quick look at Cerro Colorado, because it's it's an open pit, 53 million tons of resources. Is that correct? And your processing grades of about 0.42% copper.
Excellent. Let me share a screen, and you will see more or less what we have. And this is a presentation that's in our webpage. Let me start excuse me, very fast by showing you a small picture of what it looks like. This is an open pit located in the north part of Spain, where you will see it in the right corner of the picture. This is an open pit located in Rio Tinto, and that's the only place where we have reserves. Reserves, all of them drilled. Cerro Colorado is in this lower part of the left part of page 5. We have 2 other deposits that are very close to Rio Tinto, and we have one in the north. Now let me go to a map so you can people can locate easily where we are, and that will tell you a little bit of our global vision and where we are going to grow.
Okay,
in page 19. In page 19, you will see a kind of red line. This red line is like 2 kilometers, 2.4 kilometers long. That's the outline of the edges of the Cerro Colorado pit. That's where we would have a 10, 11 years mine life as we speak. But left of that, which means west, we have a blue line, also shows an open pit, which we are permitting and developing currently. And in the right side, we have another kind of shaded blue, which would be an underground deposit, which would be also treated in the same installations where we have right now the mine.
Okay, sorry, I got my tons mixed up. So the figure I quoted was 53 million tons. That's for San Dionisio, and you've got 186 million tons at Cerro Colorado.
Exactly.
What's the strip ratio at Cerro Colorado? Is that life of? Have you got big pushbacks coming, or is that just kind of?
It's only around 2 to 1. Actually, it's a little bit less than 2 to 1, or 1.8 to 1, and in San Dionisio around 4 to 1. The difference here is that the higher grade of San Dionisio supports this higher strip ratio. Actually, the pit is not limited by strip ratio. The pit is limited by a safe distance that we want to leave to houses that are located in the southeast of the deposit. Basically, what we are talking about in San Dionisio is the expansion of an existing open pit already. It's called Corta Atalaya, gives a name to the company, which can barely be seen in page 19 as a kind of shade. In any Google picture, you can see the existing Atalaya pit. What we want basically is a pushback where we'll mine the leftovers that were not mined in the past. And the Cerro Colorado is a 2 to 1 strip ratio, which basically will make that the two pits are basically touching each other. They are barely overlapping.
Is this all going to be done at the same throughput? So you've got a kind of a life of mine here, a planned process to keep it going at 15, 16 million tons per annum. Is that the same throughput rate? It's
a very simple exercise. If we have a certain limitation of how we can expand, let's say throughput, plant tons going through the mill, in the sense that you requires more power, more water, and so on. So, but what we can do, let's put very simple numbers. 160 million tons of open pit reserves, our current open pit, means 10 years life. If you add when you add the underground of San Antonio and the open pit at San Dionisio, plus some underground, you have another 60 million tons easily. Well, these 60 million tons, when you add them to the 160, you're talking adding another 4 years life. So right now, without getting any single ton from any single other place, we have 16 million tons, which means 16 years. We have basically 15 years of life of our existing open pit. Remember that just 4 years ago, we had a 13 years life mining at 9 million tons per year. Now we still have around 14 years life mining at a much larger throughput.
Yeah.
And that's also assuming that in these 14 years, we don't find a single ton from any other place that we could bring in. For each ton that we bring in from any other place, it means that we will extend the open pit life a little bit longer. So what's the logical game here? The logical game would be to have the open pit running and complemented with ore coming from open pits like San Dionisio or underground deposits, where basically the open pit tons helps as a buffer, helps as something to make everything homogeneous. You know that underground is very difficult. So it's very difficult to keep such a large mill full. But we are confident that we will be seeing, let's say, the installations of Rio Tinto working for another 20 years. We're always working here internally what we call Horizon 2040. So that's the place where we want to be. Where are we going to be in 2040? That's lots of years. Probably I will not be here.
I was going to say, maybe you'll be retired by then.
Maybe I'll be retired. But the important thing is to set the scene for the longer term view. That's what we did when we started here. Okay, this was a small project. Let's see what we have first. Once we have this consolidated, let's see how we can use this infrastructure. You know, the way prices of copper are going and the way supplies going, things are getting difficult. Those mines, those operations that are producing have a premium. Those mines are, I mean, we know how difficult it is to get permits, how difficult it is to get teams working, and how difficult it is to get things in a safe jurisdiction. We know how difficult it is to get permits in the States, in Canada, in Spain, of course. And of course, also we can see how rules change in other countries. So this, we will have to make as much as possible with other existing installations.
A quick question on perhaps on a general thing. You know, the Iberian Pyrite Belt has been known about for thousands of years, and the Romans were mining it, and it was been mined, you know, almost continually for 2,000 years more. What's your commentary on the kind of the exploration of the area in that you're in? You know, how mature is it as an exploration terrain? You know, how much systematic work has been done, depth of exploration? You know, what are your observations? Because I mean, you're talking about making exploration successes in this, what I would have automatically thought of as a very mature environment.
It's a very interesting question, because you see, the reality is that the whole Pyrite Belt is, I would say, younger than ever. And maybe, and just I know people can take some time to go and look at the details, but let me probably share a map of this Pyrite Belt, which is also in our presentation, page 23, and you will see that it's not mature at all. What we are showing in that page 23 is very small figures, so you won't see them. Really, what we are showing is our mineral rights, but that is irrelevant. What is important for you to see is this kind of red dots that you see all over. These red dots are like volcanoes, are like massive sulfides, VMS deposits, known deposits that are already known from the history all over the belt, and they get into Portugal, they continue through Santo Domingo, to Aljustrel, which is mining, to Neves Corvo. But the important thing here is that you have the fantastic deposits, world-class, Las Cruces, very high grade, Los Frailes, Grupo Mexico. A little bit left of that, which is west, you see Pan Global. Then we have, of course, Rio Tinto, which has been mined over 100 years at high scale and over 2,000 years, as you say. But you have Aguas Teñidas, Magdalena, Sotiel, Migollas. Why is this important? Important is that Las Cruces was discovered in 95.
Through gravity. It was Rio Tinto flew gravity, and they pulled the eyes out of it. Yeah. Exactly.
So it was there in front of the noses of everybody, and as recent as 95. But Magdalena is a world-class deposit, around 60 million tons originally, sitting only 500 meters away from a deposit that had been mined by Asturiana, I think. And it contains 3% copper and around 4% zinc and some gold. It's just 7 kilometers away from Aguas Teñidas and only 300 meters from surface. Migollas, it's a copper area close to Sotiel. Sotiel has been known for years, but also now they discovered an area called Elvira. We Atalaya have a deposit called Masa Valverde, that we made a discovery 2 years ago only, called Majadales, total grassroots. What is this telling you? It's telling you that the geophysics now are better known, and that EM, electromagnetic, works very well. And the fact that only in the last, I would say, 10, 20 years, we have discovered several major deposits. And also, Matsa, the company has been acquired recently by Sunfire, has other smaller discoveries in the area, shows you that this thing is not mature at all. At all.
What depth do you think it's, we talk about, you said that one of those deposits was discovered at 300 meters depth. How deep do you think the search has gone?
Well, we have discovered this one, Majadales, which was only 250 meters also. And the same thing that happened with Magdalena, with Matza, which was only 200, 300 meters, but the mineralization now goes to 1,000 meters. And in our case, Masa Valverde was discovered in the late 90s, I believe, close to 2000, and it goes from 500 meters to 800 meters. But we have the luxury of having deposits that are known and totally undeveloped, so you can test on top of them the geophysics. So you can see, okay, what is the best signal now that we know where's the deposit, because we have drilled and there's no installations on top. And we have done ourselves some tests, and we had been able to find mineralization quite deep. I would say that today you would be able to go to 1,000 meters. Neves Corvo, which is owned now by Lundin, and as you know, is also historic. I believe it was discovered in the late 70s by Rio Tinto also. It's drilling now 1,500 meters.
That was also a gravity discovery.
It was a gravity discovery. Now, knowing where it is, they can do EM, and electromagnetics work quite well in this environment once they know where it can be, and they are discovering very deep mineralization. Is this different to what's done in other places? Well, you can see that in other BMSs in Canada, like La Ronde of Agnico Eagle, or the famous Kid Creek, goes down to 2,000, even 3,000 meters. The systems can be big, because at the end, what happens is this is a volcano. Call it a volcano, excuse me, I'm a mining engineer, and I probably should not speak like that, but it is like an equivalent of a deep-seated volcanic system that depends on the movements after this was formed. It can lie here and there, but I always explain to the known technical people, say, if you see so many stars, these red dots I mentioned, all over distributed, most of them very shallow because they were discovered in the last centuries, why would this be the only ones there? I mean, when these were formed, Mother Nature did not know how it was going to be eroded.
Yep.
So the fact that there are so many dots there and so many small mines, and you go through the pirate belt, you see one each 1 kilometer, and the fact that several have been discovered recently, it means that if you have exploration ground in the right place and you dedicate money, you're going to discover something. It could be that it's only pirate and you're bad luck, or you could be it's 5% copper like Neves Corvo or Las Cruces or Magdalena or the old Rio Tinto. The old Rio Tinto was very high grade and very prospective area.
In some of the deeper areas that you've got under in your exploration or in your resource portfolio, have they got grades which are sufficient to pull you underground?
Absolutely correct. I mean, let me also pull back probably the presentation with some of the results that we highlighted recently from Masa Valverde. It's to give you an idea what we are talking about. I mean, we released some recent results of Masa Valverde, which include 125 continuous meters at 1.2% copper with almost no lead zinc. And within this 125 meters, there are areas of 12, 20, and 15, which grades of copper over 2%, 2.5 to 27, which can be just simply dumped into our existing installation and immediately we don't need to do any work at all to modify the circuit. But the same could be said in other intercepts, like 180 meters at almost 0.9%. Well, it also contains some zinc and some lead and some gold. I mean, these are intercepts that would be highlighted highly if it were in a porphyry copper. We're talking about 180 meters of almost true thickness. It's shown in this the sketch of page 22, where you can see the red. Its intercepts of copper are very high in some areas, and in other areas you have more zinc.
That's the red is gold, isn't it?
The red is gold, yeah, but also I think it's copper equivalent, isn't it? Oh, that's gold.
Yeah. So you've got a good gold enrichment at the top, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I point out is that I think copper is green. Exactly. There are some areas with only copper, exactly, with some areas with very high gold. The point here is that these areas are going to be mined. How much of them, I don't know. Probably the lower grades, not so much. But this system would probably be a deposit of 70 million tons, 80 million tons at least, and it's still open. So with that, I'm sure half of that will be very good grade. Can it be mined underground? Of course. Masa is mining 4.5 million tons a year underground from 3 deposits. They send everything to a single mill, and the cost of mining is between 25 and 30 euros per ton. So there's plenty of margin to be mining underground.
Yeah. And what kind of mining do they? Is it long hole open stoping? Is it room and pillar?
It is mostly, in general, long hole open stope with delayed backfill, and they use spaced backfill because of the mineralization in general is more or less vertical or 60 degrees with very good rock conditions in general. It will probably be some exception in our deposit called Majadales, which is almost flat line, which goes from 2 meters to 15 meters, almost horizontal. So very likely we will use room and pillar in that case. But I would say it's an exception. Mostly in general, it's kind of from 45 degrees to vertical to semi-vertical. So it lends very well to using long hole sub-level open stops.
I'm so delighted to hear about this, development and the exploration potential of southern Spain and Andalucía. I spent a year living down in Andalucía, studying geology, and I'm just delighted for the region, because it's in many ways, it's one of the poorer provinces or states of Spain, and just to have that kind of economic growth for so many decades ahead is really exciting. It's tremendous.
You're 100% right, and also we have a huge support from the local governments and from the municipalities. I mean, this is a huge difference if you think of all the problems that you see in communities, and we saw recently in Serbia, we saw it in Peru, we saw it in some places in Chile. Here, the support is incredible. I mean, the municipalities are with us. They support us. They help us a lot. The people are happy because the Pirate Belt is located in a kind of stretch of land just south of the mountains of the north, which lots of very good agriculture and animal. And in the south, you have the coast and the tourism and the fruits of high quality of oranges and strawberries. But in the middle, it's a kind of blessing that they have this Pirate area, where we have very modern mines and very good teams and good quality. And the fact is that recently a company like Masa has been sold for 1.9 billion. I mean, suddenly, what happens here? Yeah,
this is a valuable industry. Can we move to Toro?
Yes,
up in Galicia. I know nothing about this deposit other than the name and that it's in permitting. So if you could give me an introduction to it, I'd be most grateful.
Toro, I would say, is a fantastic. It's probably the highest value addition that we get besides Dionisio in the short term. And let me also give you just a couple of figures from our presentation also. They're shown in page 32. And in previous presentations, if people go to the webpage, you will see all kinds of details on this project. It's located only 26 kilometers east of the capital of Galicia, Santiago, very well known from the pilgrim route.
Yeah.
Only 7 kilometers away from the airport. So you can literally land and be in 10 minutes, you can be at the mine, international airport with flights to London and to other parts of Europe. Imagine, you will not find a location that's better than this. The location, the area, it's an old brownfield project that was mined in the past by Rio Tinto. They stopped in, I believe, in 86, 87. And it's all covered by eucalyptus trees. So it's not a land for paper and for pulp. It's not a land with a special agricultural demand. What you see in that picture is that there is an old site where they are mining the waste. And what I would like to point here is two things. First is that we are going to go to 30,000 tons of copper produced, and that the deposit was evaluated when this was $2.6 per pound of copper. 3.2, the resources is 170. So there's substantial possibilities, I would say expansion potential, more production, which I don't think so, because we want to have a very modern and very, I would say, environmentally friendly mining, but to extend the mine life of 12 years to probably around 20. It's a very clean concept. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, what's the grade and what's the geology?
Grade is the geology. There are discussions about the origin of this deposit. Some people say it's a kind of a shear, horizontal shears, and other people say it's a Bessie type. The reality is that only chalcopyrite with slightly a bit of pyrrhotite. So the only sulfides are clean chalcopyrite with absolutely no elements like arsenic, antimony, and so on, in a kind of horizontal lenses or sills. And the grade is 0.44% approximately, with slightly higher in the beginning. If I went to page 24, you will see kind of shades with lots of drill holes. Those in the right side will be what has been mined in the past, these pink areas. And we have found a lot of horizontal, let's call it sub-horizontal sheets, which will allow us to start mining the pits in a sequence so that the waste is backfilling the remnant pits. So it's a continuous thing. So let me finish this one. And so in those pictures that I have just mentioned, you will see that the area is basically eucalyptus, but it will be very easy to be restored in a place where it rains a lot, and where there's no acid waters generated by the waste, to be backfilling the pits as we advance, as we progress. This is a fantastic deposit.
How deep is it? What are the strip ratios?
Nothing goes from surface to maximum 100 meters. So the sills are basically sub-horizontal. We believe that in the future, we have a tremendous potential of having some of these chutes, horizontal chutes, have been mined underground, because we have intercepts that are deeper, not mineable by open pit, and that contain higher grades. So in the future, I'm sure we will also see some underground mining in the future. But so far, the project is probably at very low copper prices, will be over 12 years life after construction. With this copper prices, probably will see over 20 years life. And it will be, I would say, a model project, in the sense that plastic lined tailings will be used. The rock of the waste, which doesn't contain acid water rocks, will be used for the walls. Besides the plastic line, we will also be taking away all the water on top of the tailings, so that this is going to be pumped away to a plastic lined mined out pit. Flotation, very modern.
Produce a concentrate. We're going to produce a concentrate and sell the concentrate.
Very high grade concentrate of almost 26%, because it's no other material than chalcopyrite. It doesn't contain any penalty element. Actually, and I don't want to sound promotional, the only known, let's say, copper contain is cobalt. So we are looking at how we can recover that cobalt within the concentrate. But this is, as I say, it contains some silver, not very significant.
Can the concentrate be processed in Asturias, or does it have to go somewhere else?
Normally, this thing will be shipped from the ports that are shown in the pictures, that are only 70, 80 kilometers away, about 1 hour drive, less than 1 hour drive. And normally, this concentrate will go to the smelter in Huelva. But we have seen lots of interest from other smelters in Europe, in Sweden and in Germany, because this is a very clean concentrate. I'm sure this concentrate is not going to travel too far away, because it's such a clean concentrate. And
Galicia is famously cautious about mining, and particularly about cyanide. It's quite an emotional response, perhaps not entirely rational. There's a very emotional response in Galicia.
Galicia had a bad experience with a company that was going to use cyanide, which was called Edgewater, which got the permit for the Corcoisto project. Unfortunately, believe it or not, that project obtained the environmental impact declaration, positive, and then it was cancelled because the company could not demonstrate financial and technical capability, specifically financial. So they needed to put all the money in ahead before getting the mineral rights. But there has never been any issue in Galicia with mining. Actually, to the opposite, Galicia had 2 big open pits of coal very close to this place, in Puentes de Garcería Rodríguez and in Meirama, which were huge. When I mean huge, is 10 kilometers long pit, one of them. And also had the Rubiales mine, lead zinc of Cominco, which is now Tech, and has a huge alumina plant. And using cyanide, there is the mine of El Valle Boinás in Asturias, which is only 150 kilometers to the east, and has been using cyanide since 95. And I worked with that company a long time ago, and has never had a problem. So the issues are more coming from the anti-mining groups, which are also the same people that are opposing not only the mining, they are opposing the windmills, they're opposing any industry, they are opposing the paper mill, the pulp mill of Ence, and they're opposing quarries. So it's nothing to do with the cyanide, which we are not going to be using cyanide. We're only going to use flotation. And of course, in a zero discharge environment, we can warranty that we are going to discharge zero water to the environment, all recycled water, and in plastic lined basin. So the opposition has been political, totally political, and eventually this is changing when transparency is shown and when people are seeing what we have done in Rio Tinto, which has been a model of responsible mining. Tide is changing in our favor.
So it's in permitting at the moment. I know these. I'm working in Ecuador. I know these things can sometimes be difficult to predict. But have you got a kind of a timeline that you're looking to, you're planning on?
Well, we have a timeline, and we will leave this time. This year is going to happen, the environmental permit. Why do we believe that? I mean, we got a negative environmental impact statement back in January 2021. So why do we believe this time yes? Well, because at that time, the reason for environmental impact statement was that we could not prove that we were going to do it right. In simple words, the reality was lots of opposition from the anti-mining groups making a lot of noise. What are the differences now? Well, first of all, we have lots of noise making pro-mining. Have a lot of noise of people that want the mine. This is the first thing. Second is that we have taken our time to go and explain to all the communities of fishermen and people that are downstream to explain why this is something that's good and that's not going to harm. And third is that we have taken the approach that we are not going to have any water at all in over the tailings. It's not going to be a dry stack tailings because it's a wet environment. As you know, the north part of Spain rains a lot. Yep. So we would lie if it's going to say it's going to be wet, but we are going to remove the water. What this does is that takes away the risk of a collapse of tailings, which was the one that was used by the anti-mining groups. Oh, what happens if this collapses like the Brumadinho tailings? Yeah. So we believe this time is going to happen. We are presenting the new proposal with changes the footprint, changes some things, improves. There's lots of improvements, and it's as good as it can be. It's really I would say it's almost a perfect project. And we believe that in Spain, this is a rational, regulated process, and there's no reasons to say no. So this is why I'm positive that this year is going to happen.
Great. I look forward to, I mean, that'll be a cause for celebration, I'm sure, internally when you get that permitted. It's, yeah, I hope that project goes ahead. And for the benefit of Galicia as well, you know, I was working on a zinc project in the north of Spain in Castilla y León, and the whole area. In fact, I looked at some projects in Galicia as well, and the whole area, these rural places. And it's in the news at the moment about Spain. You know, you need things in kind of away from the main metropolitan areas to drive investment, to create Absolutely. Jobs, to attract young people back to the countryside. Good, Alberto. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you feel that we've missed that you'd like to kind of explain? I think we've covered quite a lot, haven't we?
Look, I think we have talked about the future of this company. I would also say that we are developing or helping to develop the system called Elix, which is a system to leach directly metals, especially complex metals. And you know, you work in Adventus, how complex it can be when you have a BMS that's blended copper, lead, zinc. We have been working with this for 6 years, financing and giving some assistance to a person that has discovered something. And we have been able to produce copper directly and zinc directly from these complex concentrates. We believe it is a game changer. We have the exclusivity in the Pirate Belt, where this can be used better. We also have the right of her refusal to use it elsewhere if she sells it. And we believe this is going to be a game changer. Obviously, I understand perfectly people that are skeptic because this has never been done in the world in a right way. But since we have the bad tendency of fulfilling our promises, and we have been working with this, we have decided to start with the construction of an industrial plant, the first line, and this will be ready in this year. And I think that can unlock tremendous value, specifically in the Pirate Belt. When I mean tremendous value is the numbers are difficult to repeat. I prefer to be prudent. But I would say that as besides what we have spoken, this is the only thing we probably should add.
So we've, you know, that's perhaps the metals business outside of the minerals business. Where does it come in? Is it on the concentrate? Is it on the chalcopyrite mineral itself, or is it in the flotation? You know, where does it come in the beneficiation process?
It's in the concentrate. Once you've produced a concentrate, you can leach it. So instead of going to the metal, to the smelters, what you can do is produce a global concentrate copper, lead, zinc that doesn't have the high purity required to sell each of the concentrates, and you extract with a very high efficiency the copper directly into metal, the zinc directly into metal, and the lead. Lead normally in a precipitate, but you can also produce metal. The importance of that is, as you know, some of the BMSs can be very complex from the metallurgical point of view. Not because they cannot be separated, the grains, simply is when you have two grains that are of different minerals. Let's say that this is a grain, and this is lead, and this is zinc, and this is pyrite. You need to grind them, all of them, to separate them. With that grinding and that differential flotation, you lose some recovery in each of them. By using something like a global concentrate, you get a high recovery, and then once you dissolve it, once you leach it, you also get high recovery. So the big advantage comes from this, let's say, metallurgically challenging deposits, where you can get more from each ton. So you have the same cost of mining, the same cost of grinding, the same cost of concentration, but you get more tons of metal from each ton of rock.
So you just have to liberate the sulfides from the non-sulfides, and then you can leach the sulfides individually from a global concentrate. So it's a hydrometallurgical process. Acidic, high temperature, high pressure.
That's one of the beauties. That is one of the beauties that is almost. I understand perfectly that people are very, let's say, they don't believe it on it, because it's not high acid, it is not high temperature, it is not high pressure. So people will say, well, then how does it work? Because it sounds like impossible. I'll give you a very good explanation. Very simple. Those that have a boat, even a small boat in the sea, and they have copper and have iron, there's something called galvanic currents that have the tendency of corroding the whole copper and iron very fast. What this system creates is an environmental of high of electricity, basically helping in the leaching. Leaching is an oxidation, and oxidation is a matter of moving electrons from one place to the other. By doing that, you're able to oxidize something without having this pressure. And the best example is seawater can really oxidize iron without being acidic, without being high pressure or oxygen or anything, or acid, or anything like that. You can put your hand, nothing happens. You can even drink it, but you cannot put your watch because it will dissolve with time. What this lady has discovered is how to accelerate that time. Another good example is the battery of a car, of a classic car, where is lead and oxide is formed by lead and oxide of lead within sulfuric acid. When you start your engine, the electrons go from one place to the other. When the car drives, the electrons go from one place to the other. So with electricity, you can go from lead to oxide of lead and vice versa. People should remember that an oxidation is just a transfer of electrons. If you oxidize chalcopyrite, you produce something that's oxidized, and once it's oxidized, you can leach it. So it's more of electrons transfer than the typical oxygen, pressure, and heat, which is a transfer of energy. Energy to oxidize in autoclave is given by pressure, by oxygen, and by sulfuric acid. Here, the transfer of energy is done by electricity. It's a quite unique thing, which I suspect that will be a game changer in the future.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah,
pretty exciting.
It is great. This person, is she? Did she come from a Spanish university?
No, actually, she discovered this while doing the master in Cambridge. She's a doctor in electrochemistry by Cambridge. She started first in Spain, but then all in Cambridge. And when she was doing the work there, discovered how to accelerate some oxidations and exponentially. So that's how it was knocking in doors. And who would like to oxidize things faster? Normally, people investigate not to get things oxidized. So maybe some crazy miners would like to oxidize things fast. And that's how it worked.
Well, great. It sounds like a very good Anglo-Hispanic combination, hopefully much like this interview. I think we should leave it there. Thank you very much.
It's a real pleasure to speak with you again, and whenever you want. Happy to speak whenever you want of anything.
Great. I look forward to the next update.
Okay, thanks a lot.